I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. For those of you that aren't familiar with the Uptown Women, we are normally a cocktail hour group that we try to meet in young, hip, cool locations around the Uptown area. So NODA, Plaza Midwood, everywhere around Uptown, South End. And we started the club back in July, and we became officially chartered just recently with the Federation. The Federation had to kind of halt some stuff because the National Federation couldn't get into their headquarters. And so, you know how life is, but we are officially federated. And so we're the newest member of the North Carolina and the National Federation of Republican Women. So last month was, we were hoping to have our next meeting, in person, and every month, unfortunately, it's kind of bumped. We were lucky in March because our St. Patrick's Day event, I think, was one of the last things before everything shut down. So we haven't met in person in 2 months, but hopefully in June, we're supposed to meet at Optimist Hall, which is a good name for it. So let's all be optimistic that we will be back meeting with people. I miss people a lot. So especially because my office, we may be going virtually from here on out. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I need social interaction with people. But wanted to go ahead and call this meeting to order. And if you guys would just join me for a quick invocation. Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity for us to meet. Thank you for our ability to adapt and to understand this new normal, and to understand that things are outside of our hands and in your hands. Please let us continue to flatten the curve so that we can get back to the important work. Thank you for these women and for us being able to stay connected in this time of isolation. And we just ask that we understand your timing with everything, and that we can continue to uplift each other and go out and continue to be positive images of your name. And so we ask all of this in your name. Amen. And because everybody is sitting down, I will skip the Pledge of Allegiance because it's always very awkward when everybody's trying to do this. Andrea, do you have a treasurer's report for us? Got you unmuted.
Okay. 1 second.
Okay.
So let's see. As of April 30th, we had $330 in our bank account, and Sarah just deposited another $125. So that brings us to 445, or sorry, 455.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. And then we will have to cut the check for $400 back to the Federation. So for everybody that doesn't understand, we charge $25, and 100% of our $25 goes to the state and national federation. So we are about as lean and green as it gets as an organization. But we've got some ideas for getting a few dollars in the coffers, because as of right now, everything is just kind of paid out of my pocket. So like good Republican women. But thank you very much, Andrea. And I do want to give a very brief report very quickly for what's been going on with our organization. We are officially federated, so we are the newest federated club in the country and in North Carolina, so that's very exciting. We have, I call ourselves small but mighty, and that is definitely the case. We were very lucky in our county convention that we were able to meet in person before everything got shut down. And Mecklenburg recommends the delegates and alternates and replacements to the RNC. And so just with our small little club, kind of excited to report that myself and Leanne Patton from our club are going to be delegates to the RNC, which is very exciting. Yes, oh, yay. So, and then Melissa Taylor is one of our associate members. She is going to be an alternate as well as the elector for the 12th district. So that's really awesome. Maria Conaway is one of our associate members, and she was elected an alternate replacement for the 12th district. And then for the 9th district, Sonia Roberts was our nominee for 9th district RNC. She did not get that, but we're still pretty excited, as well as Melody Milroy as well was an alternate name that was recommended. And then Amy Bynum, one of our members, was elected an alternate replacement as well. So that's super awesome. And I did the math, and I believe 45% of the women of the names total that were recommended for the 9th and 12th district are members of Uptown Charlotte Republican women. So that's pretty impressive considering our group has been chartered for like 30 days. So that's awesome. So look forward to kind of representing the girls at the convention. I was an honor 12 years ago. I got to be an alternate delegate, and they put me on the front row because I looked about 12 years old, and not many young women loved McCain at the time. So I don't look as young, but it'll be just as exciting, I think. And hopefully this convention goes off without a hitch, and that we continue to get to do some cool stuff, and that COVID hasn't completely changed how the convention will roll. But excited, and if anybody wants to be involved with the convention with volunteering, please reach out and we will get you guys plugged in. Do want to introduce, we have some of our candidates on right now. This was kind of a last second idea, but I thought, well, let's see if we can get all the women that are on the ballot. You know, we're always the party, you know, we're against the war against women for the Republican Party, but I think we have some pretty awesome candidates here representing the girls here for the Republican Party. And as people deep dive, they'll find out that we really represent the values of voters, and that we have some great candidates. So I wanted to do this tonight, and we're taping this and hopefully get some good insight that we can pass along for people that couldn't join the call tonight. But just wanted to introduce, I know Tamara Behringer, she is a candidate for Supreme Court Justice, and I know you have to jump off the call to go teach. So wanted to open that up to you real quickly, Tamara, and if you want to kind of talk about what's going on with your race, how your new normal is, and some updates from the trail.
Well, thank you, and thank you so much for having me. I certainly appreciate this opportunity, and it is different now. As a matter of fact, I was in Gaston County and Cleveland County making a journey around the state when the courthouses were closed. I was in the Gaston County courthouse at that time, actually meeting with the district attorney there and getting to know the folks in the courthouse at that place. And so it is a different time, but November will be here before we know it. We have got to campaign. We've got to get our message out. And so I'm so thankful to have this opportunity tonight. We are also, these campaigns are expensive, and so we're also raising money. And so for a little while, out of respect for everyone who's making the changes and all of that, my campaign was relatively quiet, but as of about 2 weeks ago, we're back on the trail and hard, just doing it from home as opposed in the car and out and about. I am hopeful that at least come summer or late summer, early fall, I'll be able to get back out into the state and actually meet people face to face. What I'd like to do with my time tonight, though, is tell you a little bit about myself, a little bit about who I am, because it's even more important now that you folks get the word out about the judicial candidates. There are 3 seats open for the North Carolina Supreme Court. I'm running for one of them. Justice Paul Newby is running for the chief, and Judge Phil Berger Jr. is running for the other seat. We're not running against each other. We haven't done that at all. It was very confusing at first. It's unusual to have 3 Supreme Court races all at once, and this is a real opportunity for us. There are 7 justices. 6 of them are Democrats. There's only 1 that is a conservative Republican. We need balance on the court. We need conservatives on the court. We need some common sense on the court. And so that's why I'm running. So to tell you a little bit about myself, I spent over 6 years in the North Carolina Senate, where I chaired the North Carolina Senate Judiciary Committee. And in that role, I worked to increase penalties for crimes and also fought for victim protection and victim rights. And so that was a very important part of my role there. I'm very proud of the fact that while I was a senator, I sponsored many bills. 33 of them became law. And of those 33, almost all of them passed unanimously in the House and in the Senate. I'm a lawyer by trade, and so I drafted these laws, and they were in varying types of topics, varying types of laws. But the main reason I went to the North Carolina Senate, I ran almost 10 years ago now, is that my husband and I were therapeutic foster parents with the Methodist Home for Children for 10 years. And we had children in our home that had had horrible, unspeakable things done to them. And the system was just that, a very uncaring, a broken system. And so to give you an idea of some of the children that we had the privilege of touching and parenting, to have them in our lives, one little girl wasn't even 3 years old, and she had spent hours locked in a closet in the dark, strapped in a car seat, not fed, not changed, for hours at a time, while the people who were supposed to love and care for her were on the other side of the door. She found her way into foster care, fortunately, after many years of that kind of treatment. But that changes a human being forever, forever. We had another little girl in our home who was not even 3 months old, and she had been brutally, brutally hurt and had to take a life flight to Chapel Hill and was treated there as a result of her injuries. And what really makes me mad about all of this in these two, and frankly, in every situation that I was involved with as a foster parent, I know of none of the perpetrators were ever prosecuted and spent not one day in jail, of the ones that I had any contact with. They were allowed to continue on with their behaviors. Oftentimes, the children would be sent right back into those same homes under those same circumstances. And so as a result of that, my husband and I did this for 10 years, and it really informed our lives, but it was tough. And after 10 years, we decided we couldn't do it anymore. I'm a woman of faith, and we felt we were being led in another direction. But what the two of us did decide is that when there'd be an opportunity for us to make a difference more than 1 or 2 or 3 children at a time, we would take that up. And we did. And that's when I went to the General Assembly. Several of the laws that I sponsored and wrote were about improving the foster care system. For example, until one of my bills became law, a foster child was turned out on the street on their 18th birthday. No matter what they were doing, no matter whether they were in school or not, or great, whatever their situation is, it didn't matter. Foster care was over, and they were turned out to sleep under bridges, couch surf with friends, or maybe the foster parents, out of goodness of their hearts, might have them stay in their home. Well, now there's foster care to 21. Obviously, the foster youth have to decide to stay in, but they can now go to college, they can go to community college, workforce development, those kinds of things. And so I'm very proud of that work. Also, my background, my legal background is taxation and business. I practiced law for about 20 years. My husband was my law partner, and we represented a lot of small businesses and families. And so I'm motivated to take that kind of experience to the court as well. And it's even more important now, with so many of our businesses shut down as a result of this pandemic. We need a strong court that understands the Constitution, understands business, understands tax. And I have that background, and I'm ready to take that on and bring that to the bench. We have a great slate of candidates. I've mentioned the 3 for the North Carolina Supreme Court. I believe April Wood, Judge Wood's going to be with you today as well, and she'll tell you about the wonderful candidates we have for the Court of Appeals. But the thing that we all have in common is that we are conservative constitutionalists who will apply the law with common sense. And so what does that mean, conservative? What that means is that we're going to apply the law as it was written by your legislators, not as written by the judges or what the judges want, but based on the law of the state that the legislature has brought forth. We also will defend and support our Constitution as it is written as well, and do all of that with common sense. And so that's so important. It's just a real privilege to have this opportunity. We need to take the courts. We need balance in the court. 6-1 is no balance. 6-1 is not. And so we need that voice. We need to be heard, and the law needs to be applied as written. A few other things about my background. I mentioned that I'm a tax and business lawyer. For the last 15 years, legislators are expected to be citizen legislators. And that means that we are expected to have a job other than being a senator or a representative. And I've had the privilege for the last about 15 years to be a business school professor in Chapel Hill. As a matter of fact, I'll be leaving in just a few minutes to teach my online class that meets on Wednesday night from 7 to 9. And I have students in that class all over the country. This morning, I was in class with what was supposed to be my on-campus class, but they now meet in a Zoom room because the campus the physical part of the campus is closed. But I have that background as well. So not only have I practiced law, I teach law and ethics. I'm the law and ethics professor for the UNC Chapel Hill Business School. And also I have the legislative experience. I'm the only judicial candidate, I think, that can say, and I know I can say this, and I think I'm the only one who can, I helped lower your taxes. I helped write that legislation back in 2013 that changed, North Carolina was so far behind in our taxation of both businesses and people. We were the worst in the Southeast, and we were 47th in business climate, tax climate. After implementing those tax changes within about 2 years, we are now, at this point, close to top 10, somewhere in there, depending on what metrics you use to measure it. And that's a good place to be for business, because you see, businesses are what pay for our schools and pay for our homes and pay for all of that, keep us employed. And so that's just, that background is very unusual for a judge, but it's very critical for a judge. And so I offer that up as well. In my personal life, I've been married to Brent Behringer for, it will be 38 years in July 24th. And I've been a Girl Scout for 50 years. We were talking about that when we got started. We have 3 children, and they've all made this public. I was an empty nester, but one's back home. She's an App State student, and she's back home and just finished her exams. So I guess I wouldn't be empty nesting anyway. She'd be home for the summer now. But we have 3 children. They're all over 18. They're all grown, so to speak, and they were adopted from the foster care system. And so family is important to us, public service is important to us, and this state and our values are important to us. So I appreciate your support. I appreciate what you ladies are doing, because that's how we're going to win this election, especially now, given that we're somewhat tethered to our home places.
Absolutely. I'm gonna unmute. Does anybody question? I've unmuted everybody. If you have any questions, I appreciate everything you're doing with the foster system. My husband and I are starting to kind of explore that. It's a scary, tangled mess. So I know I'm thankful for the work you've done with that. If anybody has any questions, I've unmuted everybody.
I have a question.
Yeah. Andrea.
So what area do you live in, or what district?
That's a good question. I'm originally from Cleveland County. I'm a farm girl from Cleveland County. But for the last 35 years or so, I've lived in Wake County, and I represented the southern part of Wake County in the General Assembly. So I've got rural roots, but I live in urban North Carolina. So I get it. I get the state. We're very, very diverse and a wonderful place.
Cool, thanks.
Well, we certainly understand about, creating some balance, all of us down here in the People's Republic of Mecklenburg. And we know what it's like. A 6-1 Supreme Court is never good for anybody. So does anybody else have any questions?
Well, if not, I'm going to scoot off to class.
All right.
Tonight's, we're talking about agency tonight. And next week, we talk about secure transactions. I teach in the Master of Accounting program this term. Next term, I'll be in the general undergraduate business school. And so the law I'm teaching now is very technical, which I really enjoy a great deal. But I'll go ahead and head off. I was afraid I would talk to the wrong computer because I don't use the university's computer for any kind of political activity. So I've got mine here. I'm going to shut that down and move over to the other one here in just a minute. I sometimes feel like Scotty on Star Trek, moving from one space to the other virtually. So.
Well, thank you again so much and I know you got to jump off and go do that, but thank you so much for joining us.
And one last request, when we are out and about again, if you will invite me to come to one of your typical meetings, I would enjoy that. I think it'd be
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're a fun group, so we'll definitely do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye. All right. So next up is actually one of our newest associate members, Sonia Nichols, who is running for Senate 37, and that is an absolutely mission critical seat for us to get back. I feel good that you can give Jeff Jackson a good run for his money. So Sonia, you are up.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you all and your willingness, one, to let me come on here. I have jokes because I think I'm the funniest thing ever. However, I'm going to pretend I'm serious today as I present myself to you. So thank you, Sonia Nichols. I am representing, and I'm going to go ahead and claim it as God would allow me, if God willing and the creek don't rise. I want to claim District 37 for the state of North Carolina. And so that is a district coming straight down from downtown to Providence Road, go out west towards Park Road, go out east towards Independence, and come all the way down to Ballantyne. It seems like a tiny space, but it's considered one of the most densely populated areas in the state of North Carolina. You've had an individual representing this particular district now for the last 6 years, and I just don't think you all are completely aware of the stuff he has not done. So what I would like to do is not only just bring common sense to that particular area, what I'd like to do is bring a very pro-business, pro-jobs perspective to what we need here in North Carolina, what we need here in Charlotte. I would say it is a little unfortunate that we have a district, we have a whole county that truly does not have a voice at the table in Raleigh. It's a very blue county, and unfortunately, because the leadership in the General Assembly is very red, we're getting nothing done. I think we have a lot of people that like to make a lot of speeches, but they get no work done. I, on the other hand, do understand the leadership. I understand the perspective of those that are doing a wonderful job of leading us. We're one of the few states in the country, as we're going through this whole COVID-19 chaotic mess, we're one of the few states that has a rainy day fund. We're going to operate just fine. We are able, because we've had great fiscal leaders, we're going to be able to come out of this on the other side. We're able to help those in need. We're able to provide that safety net because of the leadership that currently serves in Raleigh. What I want to do is bring the perspective of business and pro-business legislation to our district that a lot of people are not aware of. Is that me?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay. What a lot of people may not necessarily be aware of is a lot of the small businesses that are here in North Carolina are owned by women and are owned by minorities, so Black and Hispanic. And so this shutdown has affected those two groups more than anyone. So I am so excited to see that Senator Berger submitted legislation to Governor Cooper today, asking that some of the shutdown orders be lifted surrounding beauty shops and barber shops, small restaurants, because again, those are businesses that are owned by women. Those are businesses that are owned by those in our minority communities. Those are the entities that are affected the most by this shutdown. It's one thing for us to provide a safety net when people need it, but it's another thing when we're trying to create complete dependence on our governmental system. We don't want that. So I want to be in the room while they're making that legislation to make sure we don't do that. How do I do that? My background is in accounting. I have a degree in information systems. My MBA is in marketing and information systems. I have owned a small business, so I completely understand the tremendous headaches and trials and tribulations of trying to start up and make a small business viable. What things are in the way in terms of trying to make that small business work, employing people, just trying to make sure that your business is not only just viable, but it's a contributing member of the community. So I've been able to do that. I would say one of the other things that's a big deal to me that I would like to bring here is this the whole notion of making education a top priority. I am a pro-choice education opponent. I think that every mama and daddy ought to be able to determine where their children should be able to go to school, what is the best place for them, best place for their children, and we should take care of it. Seeing that education is a constitutional right, it's in our North Carolina Constitution, let's take care of it. I would say the third thing that's really important to me really is affordable health care and affordable housing, but not to the point where it's completely government subsidized. We have to put people in a place where they can be self-sufficient. Having expanded Medicaid and Medicare systems makes people dependent on the government versus making them self-sufficient. Expanding Medicaid literally just makes healthcare continue to be expensive. Didn't help anybody. I don't think a lot of people were aware in other states, for example, New York, they were one of the first to do the entire Medicaid for all expansion. But I don't think people knew that 2 weeks ago that Governor Cuomo got rid of their Medicaid expansion. It wasn't in the news, nobody heard about it, but he got rid of it because it's too expensive. A state cannot afford it. North Carolina, I appreciate our General Assembly. We have not expanded it. I understand the governor would like it, but I'm hoping and praying that as long as we can keep the majority in the House and the Senate, I can win with the help of you all and God and everyone else, that we get us a supermajority. We could truly make sure that that does not happen. I feel like I could just talk a whole lot, but what I just want to do is I want to represent us to the best of my ability. I want to represent the diversity that is the Republican Party. We never get a chance to see it. Nobody ever wants to talk about it, but it's there. And I think I'm a true representative of what the party looks like, what the party can be, the great things the party can do for people across the country. So with you all's help, with you getting out there and just getting out the word, I think I can do it. I think that there are great things for the state of North Carolina. We're already on the cusp of greatness, and I would just like to continue to see us push forward doing that. Okay, so I've talked long enough. Was that 10 minutes, Sarah?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm gonna unmute. Does anybody have any specific questions for Sonia?
Hey, this is Leanne.
Hey, Lynn.
Can y'all hear me? Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey.
Hey,
Boo-boo. Hey, hey, listen, basically, I could ask this to everybody, but you are, at this moment, preaching to the choir. Everybody who's listening to you and listening to everybody is going to vote for you if they can, and they're going to advocate for you, et cetera, et cetera. I think my concern is Mr. Jackson has always been my senator, but I have been redistricted now to 39. They kind of flip-flop. So I'm in 39 now to the open seat that Joshua Nide is running for. But, you know, Jeff Jackson is a force to be reckoned with, and we just need to stop him. And again, you know, I don't want to ramble too long because I'm not making much sense right now. You're preaching to the choir. We have to take some kind of an extra step to get all of you ladies elected. And I just want to figure out a way to do that. Right now we don't have, excuse me, traditional things going on because, right now I'm talking to you guys on my phone because I don't even have a camera on my computer. So I couldn't zoom in with y'all. But, what can we do besides have these things? And it may not be something we can answer right now, but I want all of you ladies to be elected. I just really want to defeat Jeff Jackson because he does nothing, in my opinion. So, what can we do? Sonia, what can we do besides, talk to me?
Right. I think, so one of the things that we're working on, because this environment for all of us running for something, and completely new for me because I'm new to politics, but what I'm hearing from women and men across the country is this is completely new for everyone. I think that what we would have to really truly take advantage of are things concerning social media, because that is at least the one thing we can do. I think there are systems that are set up. For an example, I understand that the texting systems are becoming a big deal because people are at home, they will have a phone, so they're using that as a way to get the message out. People are working on cultivating even greater email lists. And so I've even looked into buying different lists with people's information on it. I'm learning, and I learned this from Jeff. He didn't know he taught me this. I'm learning that he's doing a lot of advertising, or he's at least ramping up and preparing to do a lot of stuff via Facebook, Google. A lot of the data analytics that's out there is for sale. I don't think people knew this. Well, maybe they did and were just kind of not paying attention. There's so much information about us that's out in the ether. It is unreal. All kinds of information about every single one of you on this call. If you've ever voted, they know where you walk around in the mall. They know which streets you drive down because things are pinging on your phones. And so all of that information is out there. You know it, but you really didn't know it. Well, my opponent helped me to figure out that there is a way to begin reaching out to people using the data analytics. And so I will be looking at Facebook as a way to reach people, to get my message out. I think the biggest thing for us right now, because of how we are, social media is going to be the biggest deal. Doing the mail outs. So for people that live in my district, I've started just this week, just as similar to Tamara. I started last week getting information out. And thank you, Leanne, for always putting my information in the newsletter. I love you for that. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Mailing out. And the people that are getting my mailings, I was shocked and awed. Well, wait a minute. They were shocked and awed too, because we were just looking for people that were like unaffiliated that may have voted Republican in the past. Well, people in their own households didn't know that they may be married to somebody or living with people that voted for Republicans in their house. And then they all got my mailings. I got calls this week, and people were like, you said something to me. And I'm sitting there thinking, and you've been telling me you're a Democrat this whole time, but the only way you got a mailing from me is you voted Republican. You live in District 37 in the past, and you've done it in the recent past. So anyway, Leanne, I'm sorry that was a long-winded
all right.
question, but I think that the biggest thing that we can do at this moment, it might be great if we could get together and do with you, Leanne, maybe a call or maybe another Zoom situation like this. We could talk about, so what are some of the things that each of us are doing? Sarah, I don't know if you got an email today from the Federation, and we've been doing on a weekly basis now these 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock meetings on what we can do campaign during this COVID-19 situation. Have you seen those?
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I think I sent it to all the local candidates to make sure that they were getting a hold
You
of
know what? I got that from you. I did get it from
Okay,
you.
great. Yeah, I know it's during the middle of the day, so I can't ever break away. But yeah, so I know the Federation's doing like some training and some different things, and I know Chris Fulton is also sending things out on how people can get involved and still make phone calls and do some things like that too. So,
Leanne, what I can do is they have set up a system where I think they've taped each of those meetings. Maybe what we can do is that is something that we can share that with the group. But they've taped the meetings, and these were some steps that we could take to campaign during
Okay.
this time. Would that be helpful at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking with everybody listening that, you know, it's a little bit difficult, like for me to, let's say, get my neighbor to go to a meeting. But if we kind of thought outside the box, I mean, for the future now, and I just reach out to my neighbors, for instance, and say, I'm going to have a 1 hour Zoom conference call, whatever, with a lady who's running for, you know, Senate. Now, of course, my neighbors won't be voting for you because I'm in 39, but I'm just using that as an example. We may be able, it's kind of like a new way to look at precinct organization. And I know that Chris Polton is doing stuff, but I also think that, you know, to make it more personal, to just invite, you know, like traditionally before election day, I probably have, let's say, 10 people or more call me up, email me, message me, whatever, and say, who do I vote for? Because they haven't found the time to really research. But if I reach out to those people and say, hey, can you just give us an hour or a half hour, and I want to introduce you to this candidate. And maybe we can get more interest, and then they tell a friend, and then they tell a friend, and that will take the place. Now, I realize if you have a physical meet and greet, a lot of times people might give money or something, but there's a way you can also set it up where you, even if it's Zoom, you can say, if anybody wants to give, just click on this link right there at your computer, and you can give online to me right now. So I'll shut up because I know a lot of other people have to talk, but I just get real excited thinking about how the sky's the limit on how we can really get the message out more to people who normally just won't get out, but they'll sit and, you know, I'm already in my pajamas, guys, and I'm just sitting here talking on the phone. So, you know, it's like, I think we can get more people interested that way. So
Leanne, can I ask, is it open for conversation? This is Christine Illis. Leanne, I don't see any button to be able to add any funds to this at this time. I mean, how are we really raising funds for this event, and has it been effective in the way that we're doing it?
Well, I know that in that newsletter that I send out, and you get it, Christy, that newsletter has in there everybody I profile, like Sonia's in it every week. I did the Supreme Court Justice.
Yeah.
You know, I do Sunny every week. I mean, Sunny's so on it. She's like crazy involved. You know, there's always a link to their website or somewhere, and on that website it'll have a donate button. So that's one thing. And then, for example, with me in District 12, at the very bottom of yesterday's newsletter, what's today, Wednesday, maybe it was Monday, 2 days ago, at the very bottom, you can give to District 12. And District 12 is going to be distributing that to candidates and also hosting events if we're allowed to in the near future. So there's a way to do that. But what I'm thinking is, let's say Sonia or Sunny or anybody else on this call, any of you, you say, hey, let's reach out to, you know, let's make it a goal that 50 people get on a call with Sonia that aren't involved at all, but they'll just sit and listen to a conversation, and they'll do exactly what we're doing right now. And then if it is a Zoom thing where you're on your computer, see, I'm only doing it on the phone right now, but that I could go to my computer and you could say, hey, click on this person's website and give right now, or whatever. I mean, the sky's the limit. So why don't we, so that I'm not taking up so much of the valuable time of our guests who should be speaking, this is something that I'm willing to explore with all of you candidates as soon as we hang up.
Yeah,
if
I'm
anybody
just trying
wants
to
to reach
figure out
out to me.
how to, like, Sunny and I talk a lot, how to help her raise money. Kenna, obviously wonderful, Kaylee. I always call her Kenna. That's a joke between us. Kaylee Thompson, trying to figure out how to raise them money individually during this time. It's very difficult. I'm willing to pick up the phone. I just don't know how you do that. Do you raise it as a whole, or do you raise it for individuals?
That's entirely up to you, I would say. You could either say, if you want to give to all candidates, for example, every candidate who is on this line at least has a precinct in District 12. Amy Bynum has 2 precincts in District 12, but somebody else like Kaylee has probably half her precincts, or more than half, maybe all of them in District 12. But either way, every one of them can benefit from giving money to just one general fund. Or if you just really believe in one candidate, then just start calling all your friends and say, this is how you give. You've got to trust me, and just, know who they're running against. Don't just say, well, they're a pro-life Republican, so we have to vote for them. We have to really tell people what's at stake. And Jeff Jackson, for example, is not a good representative of who we are. And we have to maybe give examples and then say, and this is why I'd like to ask you to give $20. You can even say $20 buys 4 yard signs for Sonia or whatever. So the sky's the limit. So let's work on this.
Okay, I think we have to, as an individual level and as a hierarchy level, right? How do we raise money for everybody as a whole individually? These times are very difficult. We can't go door knocking. I can't go, do what I would normally do. Are the calls effective? I guess that's my last question, and then I'll quiet down. Are the calls effective? And are people being effective by those calling at this point?
I can't answer that. I don't know. Does anybody have an answer for that?
That's a good question that I'm gonna try to find out how that's happened, how that's working. One thing I do want to, I'll make sure we send out a follow up with everybody's like the candidates, their profiles and their websites and things like that. And we also have that up at mecgop.com. It sounds like, Christy, you just volunteered yourself as the fundraising chairman for Uptown Charlotte Republican Women.
I would love that. Come on, girl. I didn't put a video on because I've been working all day, but I will do that.
Awesome.
So
Well, you missed our treasurer's report where we're going to have a balance of $55 because 100% of our dues go to the Federation. So
no problem. But as Leanne and I looked at it in this district, there's so many people moving in and out that there was only like a few people registered to vote as Democrats. Republican was just around the same thing, but they're not. The consensus is really what we need, right? Mm-hmm. The census to understand who's out here. I do believe we have a big Republican group that has come out and has moved to Charlotte that is not being tapped in Uptown because it's very much an area where people are kind of transient. Although a lot of those Republicans have come back in. Whatever you want me to do, girl, I'll do it.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and continue on. I know I saw Judge Wood is on the call, and just excited to have you join us. And it's weird to not see you on the physical campaign trail because I wanted to just let you kind of go ahead and talk with us.
I would love to do that. I'm not sure why it says Tamara Behringer
Yeah.
down there, but I'm assuming it's because I used the same call-in she did.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you ladies tonight. I greatly appreciate that. And I appreciate this conversation and your brainstorming ways that you can help all of the candidates, because this is a critical year for us. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, so of course I don't want to take a whole lot of time to remind you how important these judicial races are. But these judicial races are critical this year. We are do or die this year, and I do want to just reemphasize that you know, you've heard from Tamara already, and she's running for the Supreme Court, and it's important we take those 3 seats because, you know, Justice Newby's up for re-election. He's running for Chief Justice, and he's our only conservative. So if we lose him and we lose the other seats, we're going to be 7 Democrats and 0 Republicans. And these are 8-year terms. And so it is vital we win these elections. I, of course, am running for Court of Appeals, and there are 5 seats up, which is very unusual. There were only supposed to be 3 series of events. Now there are 5. Well, that's a whole third of the court, because there's 15 judges at the Court of Appeals. And so 3 are, 5 seats are up. So that's a whole third. Of those 5 seats, only 1 is currently held by a conservative, and that's, of course, Judge Chris Dillon. The other 4 are held by liberal Democrats, and we have the opportunity to take those seats and to have a Republican majority at the Court of Appeals. Right now, there's a Democrat majority. And the reason why it's so vital is because at the Court of Appeals, you know, they sit in panels of 3. When they make a decision, the whole court doesn't sit together. Until last year, they couldn't. Now they can in Bonk, but that's very rare and only under limited circumstances. So they sit in panels of 3. And so if you've got a strong Democrat majority, it's unlikely that you're going to have a Republican majority panel. You might be lucky to have 1 Republican on that panel. And so it's really important that we have more conservatives at the Court of Appeals, because most of the appeals stop at the Court of Appeals. Some go on to the Supreme Court, but generally when a case is tried in the district court or superior court and people don't like the outcome, they can appeal the case and go to the Court of Appeals, and generally that's where it stops. And if it's a 3-0 ruling, then it doesn't go automatically to the Supreme Court. So it stops there at the Court of Appeals, and then those rulings are binding on all of the lower courts. So it's critical that we win these elections this year. And of course, we have an excellent opportunity to elect 8 conservatives. And I apologize for my dogs. My husband came in and then walked out and didn't pay attention that he left the dogs inside. So I apologize for the yipping over there. But if we are going to win these races, we need your help, because this COVID-19 shutdown has affected, of course, all of us. And affected our ability to get out there and talk to people and to make those important connections. So what I really want to emphasize is that, you know, people understand how the voter ID affected people's rights, and they understand that one judge threw out the will of the people, and we would call that judicial activism. And so you can really encourage people that whether they're Democrat or Republican, if they care about the rule of law, then they want to elect conservative judges. And the reality is, generally, we expect 40% of people are going to vote for the Republican and 40% of people are going to vote for the Democrat. What we're really trying to hit are the 20% in the middle. And we need resources to do that. We need you to spread the word. The voter drop-off is incredible after president and governor. People just don't really pay attention to the judges. We're all the way at the bottom. So, you know, by the time they get down there, they have to be invested. And we need you guys to spread the word for us of how critical it is that they don't get voter fatigue, that they go all the way to the bottom, that they finish the ballot, and that we elect conservative, constitutional, common sense judges. And I mean, there's so many more things I can say, but you guys, I'm preaching to the choir. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have right now.
Well, I think that this is Christy Nellis. I think the fact is that we need to vote for individuals, right? And
Right.
focusing on those individuals. And
Right.
it's not, my mother is a full Democrat. My family is all Democratic. And I looked at him and I talked about Tom Tillis and I said, look at him as an individual. And my mother dove deep as a Democrat and now she likes him. She's
Right.
like doing everything right. So I said, vote for the individual, although she can't, she's in Florida, but don't vote for, whatever you think. Look at the individual, Democratic or Republican. You got to look at what the individual stands for.
Right. That is absolutely right. But at the end of the day, of course, we're now partisan again. So don't forget that we've got R's and D's beside our names, and so people know if they're voting for the Republican or for the Democrat. And what we really need to stress is that your individual on the platform, when you look at judges, if you want conservative judges who are going to follow the law and uphold the law no matter what, and are going to protect their constitutional rights, you want conservative judges. And we want people to really understand that your conservative judges are your Republican judges. But yes, we want you to look at the individual. Of course, there are 8 of us running, and all 8 on the Republican ticket, and all 8 of us have liberal opponents.
April, one thing I wanted to, I got an update from our Board of Elections liaison for the MEC GOP the other day, and it was kind of disturbing, some of the stuff that I think they're going to be trying to push through the Board of Elections, and really some sketchy stuff. I know they want to ease the limit to have kids that are under 18 be like chief judges and some crazy stuff like that. Do you have kind of some thoughts? I always think we always win the argument when it comes to like voter integrity. And especially people see how judges have litigated from the bench when it comes to that. Do you have kind of any thoughts on that?
Well, because of this whole COVID-19 crisis, there's going to be a huge move to change the way that we vote. And we've got to safeguard against that. We've got to make sure that we are clear that we want to protect the integrity of the voting process, such as requiring voter ID so that we know that dead people aren't voting, and so, but there's going to be a huge move. Like right now, one of my friends is on the local Board of Elections. He's the chair of the Board of Elections. And of course, they're doing mandatory, state mandated mandatory training, but it's all going online. They just got a whole new list of things that they're going to try to change, things to look forward to because they're looking at rule changes. And so we really need to keep a close eye on what's going to happen at the and make sure that we don't let things just slip by because it's easy right now. Because we're going to be stuck with it in the long run. Whatever we allow to happen now is going to keep going down the road, regardless of whether or not there's a need for it, such as this whole COVID-19 crisis.
Anybody else have any questions for Judge Wood?
No, thank you so much. This is Christy. I really appreciate your answer. Thank you so much for taking the time. Leanne knows me. I'm new to this county. I'm really excited to be part of this. So whatever I volunteered myself for, please make sure you call me, okay? And
well,
get it set up.
I do want, part of the whole conversation of how can you guys help, I do want to stress that, we're in a different time. This is a different way of campaigning that we've never had to do before because of the lockdown. So we are spending a lot of time on social media and a lot of time on the phone. And of course, it's free to share our Facebook pages. It's free to share our website information. But, I worked a full day today. I had my COVID-19 court. And of course, I still had to make a dozen phone calls asking for donations, which is not in my wheelhouse. I hate to do it, but it's a necessity. I need money to run this campaign statewide, so that I can get the message out there because, you know, at the end of the day, we're going to have to really tap into those resources such as Hulu. You know, my kids watch Hulu and Netflix and Prime TV as opposed to regular TV. So if you're looking at those demographics, the best way to hit them is to buy some of those inexpensive ads that you can target zip codes and stuff. But you still have to have money to do that. Banners, of course, on you know, people who use Google or AOL or whatever, you can get banners and so that you can advertise that way. Of course, emailing your friends is free. Texting your friends and other people are free. Making phone calls, snail mail works too for the people that don't, you know, aren't really technologically advanced in Facebook and Instagram. But it is vitally important that you remind people that this is a critical year. And if they're tired of judges just imposing their will on them, such as voter ID, regardless of how the people in North Carolina voted, one judge said, can't do that, then you need to make sure that you elect judges who are going to follow the Constitution, follow the rule of law, do the right thing, do what the law says, not legislate from the bench. And you can do that by, you know, just reaching out to your families and friends and helping us reach those 20% in the middle that we know we got to target. And of course, you can also donate on my website, which I gave you the link to, which is www.judgewoodforcoa.com. And I think Leanne's done a really good job of also pushing out all of our judicial candidates. And if you've not seen, you know, our slate card that I'm holding up right now, please make sure that you send me an email. I will email that card to you so that you can share it on social media or Facebook or Twitter or text message to your friends. Please help us get the word out who the conservatives are.
Do you believe that Facebook is the best way right now? I'm in a technology world.
Well, okay. So if you listen to my children who, you know, my two oldest ones are old enough to vote, so 18 and 20, they're going to say Facebook's for old people. I use Facebook regularly, but they don't. They use Instagram, but of course you can use that same platform. So if you know how to do it, if you know how to link Facebook and Instagram. So
no, Kaylee has been yelling at me because I'm in technology, but I use LinkedIn and not Facebook.
So LinkedIn is more business oriented, and I use it a little, and some of my friends use it. It's you know, it's good. It is a good way to connect for people that actually do utilize LinkedIn. But Facebook and LinkedIn, Instagram, most definitely, and even Twitter. I hate to tweet. You won't see very many tweets from me because they just terrify me. But I do have a Twitter account. I do, you know, sometimes go out there and tweet. And so for people who are voracious about that, Twitter's a very good way to get the word out and to communicate with people. But any of those social media platforms, you utilize them, utilize all of them.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions for Judge Wood? All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and I think education, probably more than anything else in this world, has really been upended. And so I do believe in Providence, and I think that the fact that our nominee right now for Superintendent of Public Instruction, being Catherine Truitt, is really really important right now, because I think she's probably the most adaptable. Resiliency and pivoting and adaptability are words that we use a lot at my office, and it's very true right now, and especially as we kind of navigate what's going on. I'm excited. Thank you so much, Judge Wood, and I'm going to bring on Catherine Truitt, who is our nominee for Superintendent of Public Instruction, to kind of talk about where we go from here with education and with her campaign specifically.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Great. Well, first of all, I can't tell you how excited I am to be here with such a great group of women. I wish we were all having a cocktail together. That would be a lot of fun, and hopefully that's not too far away. So yeah, I am the nominee for Superintendent of Public Instruction. And I want to explain a little bit about the role, and then I'll share some about myself. And of course, I want to answer your questions if I can. I think that probably more people right now than normal know that we have a superintendent of public instruction, just because there's been a lot of controversy in the newspapers, et cetera. But quite frankly, a lot of people, but probably most people, don't know that we have a state superintendent of public instruction. So the easy way to explain this to people is that the State Board of Education, who is appointed by the governor, is in charge of carrying out all the policies and rules that come down from the legislature about public education in our state. And the Department of Public Instruction is the administrative arm or agency of the State Board of Education. So whoever leads the Department of Public Instruction, which in our state, this person is elected. In other states, it's called the Secretary of Education, or it could be called state superintendent. But in the vast majority of states, this position is appointed, not elected. So that's just a quick overview of what this role is about. Traditionally, this role is held by someone who has some kind of education background. June Atkinson, who was the state superintendent prior to our current, Mark Johnson, had been a teacher for many, many years. And she was actually the longest serving state superintendent in the country, actually. And Mark Johnson was the first Republican ever to be elected to that role. So most people who work in education tend to be more left-leaning, and so it was quite a feat that he was able to get elected. I'm going to share a little bit about me and then explain why I decided to run for this role. I was that kid who always wanted to be a teacher, and I did become a teacher. After college, I married a Navy man, and we started moving all around the country. I've lived, I think I've moved probably until he left the Navy in 2000, when was it, 2008. I probably had moved about 16 times. I spent 3 years teaching in the British school system because we were stationed in London for about 4 years. And so when we moved to North Carolina, after 15 years of moving around, which was about 11 years ago, we settled here, and he stayed in the Navy Reserves, and I taught for another 3 years in Johnston County. So at that time, that was 10 years in the classroom. And then I left the classroom to become a turnaround coach. So I started traveling nationally in urban high poverty schools as a turnaround coach. And I saw poverty like I'd never seen it before. Then it's a kind of a long story that I'm happy to share another time, but in 2015, at the end of those 3 years of consulting, I became Governor McCrory's education advisor. And it was during that time that I really got to learn about how education policy works, how laws in education are passed, how teacher pay works, all of those things that as a teacher, I had absolutely no clue how these things worked. When he lost the election, I went to go and work for President Spellings at the UNC system, where I was in charge of a portfolio of K-12 legislation that legislatively sat at the UNC system office. About 8 months into that job, I was approached by Western Governors University, North Carolina, WGU, and this is what Sarah had alluded to. If you watch TV, our commercials have the owls. We are a 23-year-old nonprofit, 100% online university whose mission is to expand access to higher education to adults. So we do not compete with traditional brick and mortar universities, although that may change now. But we have 4 workforce aligned colleges: education, IT, healthcare, and business. And North Carolina, the WGU North Carolina was launched in 2017. We are one of 8 state affiliates, and but the university itself was founded about 23 years ago by a bipartisan group of governors from Western states. So about 18 months, maybe 2 years ago now, the rumblings started in the education community that Mark was not going to run for a second term, that he was interested in something else. And I had a lot of people calling me and saying, you've got to do this. You've got to run for this role. It's important for many reasons, et cetera. And I'm like a lot of people on this call, I'm a person of faith. And I felt like, I just instantly felt like, yes, this is what I need to do. And I prayed about it some more, and nothing changed, and ended up having a primary against a sitting legislator who was a very dear friend and colleague of mine from Union County. And I won my primary decidedly with about $5,000 in it for a statewide campaign, which is not very much money. We have a broken K-12 education system. And by broken, I mean it works for some, but not for all. And when I say that, I don't just mean it, you know, the cliche of it doesn't work for low-income kids. Yes, it doesn't work for low-income kids, but it also doesn't work for a lot of middle-class and working-class kids. 2/3 of 8th graders in North Carolina are not proficient in math and reading. 64%. It's a huge number. Only about 18% of kids in North Carolina meet all 4 ACT readiness benchmarks for college.
Have we not stopped Common Core here?
No.
We still do have Common Core. And Common Core, I think Common Core is part of the problem, but these are issues, these statistics go back 30 years. Our biggest problem is that we do not teach early literacy the way it's supposed to be taught.
No, but my children got confused because they're 16 and 13, and some of them got Common Core and some of them got it late in the game. So it's very destructive.
Yes, and then parents can't help their children with their.
I didn't know how to do the zeros. I was used to carrying a 1.
Yeah, well,
Right?
and I mean, when I lived in Johnston County, my child's school held, sent out information and showed parents how to do this. And some schools, I think, have did a better job of implementing it, and some didn't. The bottom line is that the federal government stuck their nose in where they shouldn't have. And the irony is that the money that we got from that Race to the Top grant that forced us to adopt Common Core also got us to be able to lift the charter cap. We had to lift the charter school cap in order to get that money, because charter school expansion was part of President Obama's education platform. But the left has completely abandoned this, because guess what? The teachers unions don't like charter schools. And so Hillary Clinton put an end to charter school expansion coming from the left. So we have kids in North Carolina who have been trapped in failing public schools for generations. And so school choice has become just a necessity for people who have no place else to go in order to hope that their kids can get educated. Right now in North Carolina, zip code correlates to student outcomes and achievement. We are ranked, Raleigh and Charlotte are ranked 49 and 50 in the social mobility index. Mm-hmm. If you are born into poverty in North Carolina, you will stay in poverty. the biggest problem that we have is
Why would you say that? Why would you say that? I just have to ask those
that
questions.
if you're born into poverty, you'll stay into poverty?
Yeah, I was born in California. I was, born in Ohio, went to California.
Me too.
I honestly, I don't believe in that. I don't
Well,
believe in that
the
statement.
data, yeah, I think that it's, I think that it's always possible to escape your circumstances. But in North Carolina, I'm not saying in the US as a whole, but in North Carolina, 1% of African American 8th graders read at an advanced level. And when we look at the data for reading and math scores, 80% of kids in poverty have, since 1998, have not met proficient, they can't read or write basically, such that they could even go to community college, let alone go to college. And believe me, I'm someone who believes that not every child needs to go to college. We are doing a disservice to so many kids when we say everybody should go to college, because that's simply not the case. But we do live in a time where it's not enough just to have a high school diploma. You have to have some post-secondary training and education. You have to have a credential of marketplace value in order to not be on government dependence. And so when we look at the number of kids, regardless of their income, only when we, that 2/3 figure, that 65% of 8th graders who don't read on grade level, that includes that's all kids, not just low income kids. And we are not, every single piece of reading research there is shows that a phonics-based approach to reading and teaching kids how to sound out letters is how kids learn how to read. And the majority of teachers in North Carolina do not teach kids to learn how to read using a phonics-based approach.
Appreciate that. I thank you so much for your time. My only question, and I'm sorry to do this, is what do you see for the future as these schools are trying to probably not open or possibly not open? What are your thoughts on that, and how do you feel about going forward? Because these children need education.
Yeah, so the districts, every single district in the state has to submit a remote learning plan to the legislature by July 20th. We have districts that are have absolutely zero supports for kids for remote learning. And so there are things that the legislature can be doing. We also do have a connectivity problem. I mean, the North Carolina Western Regional Teacher of the Year, who lives in Rutherford County, does not have internet access at her house. We do have a lot of places that still do not have access to robust Wi-Fi, so that they can stream and do stuff online. So my recommendations are that the state is going to have to invest in training for teachers so that they can get a hold of how to build an online course. Because right now, all they're doing, as you parents know, most teachers are just replicating what they would do in the classroom online, and that doesn't work. It's a very, if kids go back to school this fall, they're going to go back on an every other day schedule. And I don't know how they're going to reconcile that with the fact that parents have to work 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to take some creative problem solving. And right now we just don't have the leadership that we need to get things done.
I thank you so much for your answer, and I really appreciate it. I'm not on video right now, but I really appreciate your answer, and thank you so much. Leanne Patton knows me very well, right, Leanne?
Is that Chris? Is that Christy who's talking?
You bet, girl.
Awesome.
And Christy, I think this is actually a good reminder. I think leading on opportunity would be something interesting
Yes.
for Uptown to
My
talk
office
about for a
call.
future.
You'd have to text her, I'm sure she'll come out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I didn't hear the other one that was going on, but there's a lot of questions going forward, a lot of questions on education going forward that we need to make sure that we define. These children need it. I mean, my kids are getting straight A's right now because they're doing it online. Now, is that how it should be done? Right? So there's a methodology that we have to figure out. Is education a little different than them giving it on to get online and just get straight A's?
Yeah, it's going to be, so moving forward, it's going to be blended learning. It's going to be some learning that occurs at school and some that occurs online. And when kids come back to school in the fall, we're going to see the full impact of what this kids being away from the classroom, the full impact that it has taken. I mean, I have 3 kids in public schools. One of them, fortunately, is graduating, and she had already been accepted to college when the school shut. But the other 2, it's been, I'm not really sure what they're learning, if anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's every single teacher in this state is in a different place with how to do this. We were not prepared for it. The irony, I think, is that we have some low income and rural districts that were the best, who was the best prepared for this was Rowan Salisbury schools.
Oh,
They were
wow.
absolutely nothing.
Really?
Yeah. So their superintendent is a national leader in this space, and they have been doing this for 6 years through grants and just figuring it out themselves.
Interesting.
So how do we think the school will go back coming up this next year? How do you feel that the school systems will go back, if I might ask?
So so in my talks with the State Board of Education, what I'm hearing is that, and this will really come down to what DHHS says to the governor, but there will be no extracurricular activities. There will be no sports. There will be no band. There will be no eating in the cafeteria. And the schools will be at half capacity by sending some kids 2 days a week. Like kids will be on an AB schedule.
That's be a controversial question.
You go for Andrea.
So the reports is that this isn't really affecting children. So why are they taking such an extreme stance on like not sending kids back to school?
Because children can carry it.
So what?
Well, because they can carry it to you and you might then get it.
But isn't school more important than this is going to go on forever. Are they just going to stay out of school forever? Like this, it's kind of ridiculous.
So I think what's going to happen is things are going to change dramatically once testing becomes available. So when testing becomes widespread, and like I'm telling you, kids are going to go into the class, they're going to go into the building, and somebody's going to scan their forehead with one of those no-touch thermometers, and if they have a temperature, they'll be sent home.
Right, which is fine, but keeping them at home just seems stupid.
But I've done that. So you do it one day, and then the next day you might get it. So I went, voluntarily to a COVID place that was on the side of the road in South Park, and drove by and got a test, but I'm not covered for the next day.
Yeah.
So if I got it the next day, it doesn't matter what I did that day.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that keep in mind that the Secretary of Health and Human Services in the state is appointed by the governor. So she is a Democrat. She is an MD, and all he has to do is say, well, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, who's taking her guidance from the CDC, says that schools cannot reopen, or schools can reopen but cannot be at capacity, just like just like the restaurants will be at half capacity. I see this comment in here about it's hard to do distance learning well. It is hard because teachers have no idea how to do it. But we've been doing it at WGU with adults, granted, but it is possible to do it. It's just going to take training. Teachers have to be taught how to do it, and they need to have curated resources, and we need to make sure that kids are safe on their devices, and just having a phone isn't going to be enough. So there's a lot to work through.
Well, I know I can speak. I think this is something that could really be fascinating. I feel like MEC GOP, we almost need to take something offline and do some sort of summit or something about this. But I really appreciate you coming in and talking about this. In the interest of time, I think we got to unfortunately move on. But if you guys have any specific questions, I would love to get some. I think this is really fascinating.
No, and thank you for that. This is Christy again. I thank you for that. I think this is something to be taken offline. We need to discuss this. We need to understand it. My children are actually flourishing through this different kind of methodology of education. They're getting a short-term, ability to do what they need to do, and they're flourishing. So I'm just worried about the way the world's going to come back.
Yeah. So I've written about some of these things that we've talked about, and if you all could like my Facebook page, if you go to my website, which is just catherinetruitt.com, Catherine with a C, if you could go to my website and just click on but my Twitter and my Facebook links are there. If you all could check that out and start sharing some of this. I just have to say one more thing. You all need to know, especially given Sonia's comments earlier, my opponent is the teachers union's candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, she is anti-school choice of any kind, which includes anti-charter school.
Oh God.
And the teachers union has announced a couple weeks ago publicly that they want to be treated like a union, which is illegal in North Carolina. And they are moving their agenda further left.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Catherine. And
thanks, Sarah.
Yeah. And Amy Bynum, if you want to, you're up.
All right. So it is so good to see everybody tonight. Like y'all miss our gatherings. So we had to, of course, pause like everyone else for a bit. Definitely paused everything, paused fundraising for a while to be sensitive to everyone's financial instability and our front-facing operations because of social distancing. Again, we just want to be sensitive to everybody in our community. We're just now starting to this month get things rolling again, like some other people have mentioned. And what we can do, I mean, what everybody can do is, again, like a lot of other folks have already said, the social media. I know someone was asking how you can help, when a candidate posts something, you can share their posts so that your other friends, not just our inner circle of preaching to the choir, sees them. That's one thing that you can do. Share things on social media that about your candidates that you want to promote. We're also working on getting fundraising back, more fundraising, doing social media, email campaigns, that kind of thing. For those of you that don't know much about me, I'm here, Charlotte, born and raised, rare. One of the rarities. I think there's a couple of us on this call right now that are from here. My degree.
Yeah, where's your No, sorry, you have a great background. That's not your backyard.
No. I like to, it makes me feel a little better to pretend I'm someplace warm and by the water.
No, thank you. Sorry, just to laugh.
This picture I actually took in at Lago di Garda, Lake Garda in Italy. So it looks like the Bahamas, but there's castles around the lake. So it was an amazing place. But I'm born and raised in Charlotte, graduated from Myers Park High School. My degree is industrial engineering from Georgia Tech. But from there, I went to LA actually and worked in the film industry for a while after working in telecom for a few years in Atlanta. And then eventually came back here because the financial opportunities were better. As I can't remember who brought this up, but in North Carolina, our legislature has done so much in the past few years under Republican leadership and Republican governor fiscally to make it a better environment for the citizens. And I just kept looking at the job opportunities here. I kept looking at the lower cost of living here and finally said, I mean, the weather in California is beautiful, but I need to look at what's better for my livelihood and move back here about almost 6 years ago now. So, you know, and that's what brought me back. And I was so excited and looking forward to it. And losing the governor's seat was tough. And then when we lost the supermajority in the legislature, it's been really frustrating because we can't even override what Governor Cooper's vetoes. And, you know, so that's a big reason why I'm running is the person who's my opponent, who's in the seat now, is his first term. Before that, it was always a Republican seat, but as we've had a lot of people moving into the county every day, a lot of our formerly safe Republican districts have gotten more and more blue. And as we can see by what's going on right now, it's really important that we have that supermajority back, because we just don't know, you know, what else is going to happen. And, you know, my opponent votes the wrong way every time. And again, I agree with a lot of the ladies who've already spoken, where I am very much in favor of a business environment, because a pro-business environment, because that's what keeps our economy strong. That's what provides jobs. That's what puts food on our tables and pays for education. You know, I also agree that I'm very much for school choice. And I understand a lot of what Catherine was speaking about, especially having grown up here. I was very blessed to have been zoned for a really good high school at the time. But if I wasn't, you know, my parents couldn't have afforded to send me to private school. And they couldn't anyway, because my mom was on the school board. So she said, no, you're staying in public school for several reasons. But again, I was very fortunate to be zoned for Myers Park. At the time was the top public high school in the state. You know, but not every kid had that opportunity, and we definitely need to look at that. And there are a lot of things that the legislature is going to be, a lot of these things are what the legislature handles. And so we just really need better representation there. And in our district, my district is 105, so it's Ballantyne, a bit of Pineville, it kind of goes up Park Road towards South Meck. So as Leanne mentioned, I have 2 precincts that are in the 12th district. The rest of it is in the 9th. And it's very purple. So we do need all the help we can get. Anybody who wants to volunteer with us or, you know, donate or make calls, we would love to have you on our team. You don't have to live in the district in order to help us out. And Christy, to answer your question, voteamybiden.com. You can sign up to volunteer or donate. We're going to start making calls very soon, about the next week. So
that's my point. Let's just do this. Let's get out there. I mean, Kaylee's trying to struggle how to do her campaign, and I don't mean to say that because you can't do the normal. We can't do normality. So we have to do something different. So we have to change the way that we do things, which is often, I'm a technology leader. I own my own company. But I think that, you know, we have to change the way that we do things. And it's going to be uncomfortable, guys.
Yeah,
but uncomfortable.
Because we had planned, right when the shutdown happened, we planned our first day of action. We were going to be knocking on doors. And I'm really still looking forward to getting out and actually meeting the people in my district. I want to knock on their doors. I want to talk to them face to face. And so it's very disappointing that we haven't been able to do that for me personally. But yeah, we still have the phone. We still have social media. And we will be starting up doing calls. So please, you know, sign up. There's a place on my website to sign up. if you want to volunteer, make calls, and you can check off what you'd like to do. And we would love to have y'all. We can get logins set up for you for Red Dialer. And we should be starting that in the next week or so. So we'd love to have y'all for that. Obviously, we're still going to be doing mailers, which do cost money. Yard signs cost money, you know, like Leanne or someone was saying earlier. Fundraising is tough right now because a lot of people are out of work, and you know, we have to do the uncomfortable calls and ask for money, but at the same time, we know that not everyone's in the same position they were a couple months ago. So that is going to be tough, but we're going to be doing everything we can to get out there and still be sensitive to social distancing. And, you know, we can't host events right now. We can't knock on doors, but there's a lot that we still can do. So we would love your help because we really need to fire my opponent and send him back home and
get him out of there. Let's get him out. You can do this.
With your help, I can do it. So we can do it. So that's really all I had right now. Oh, Sarah, you reminded me the issues with the North Carolina Board of Elections. One of the things that they're trying to do, they have a lot of suggestions that or recommendations that they then pass on to the state legislature, and the legislature has to vote on it for it actually to become the new rules. So that's another place where it's really important that we have Republicans in the legislature, because some of the things that they are using this pandemic in order to attempt to institute are insane. Like having 16-year-olds be allowed at the moment, you have to be 17 to work at a polling place. And I believe you have to have a recommendation from your school, and you can only do certain levels of responsibility. One of the things they're recommending is 16-year-olds not only can work, but can be chief judges and don't need a recommendation from their school because, well, that's tough to get right now because school's out. Another thing that our Board of Elections liaison mentioned was, I guess they'll send people to such as nursing homes during election time, and they'll send someone from the Board of Elections, and they'll have a Republican and a Democrat go together along with the, I think it's the judge, and to do voting for the elderly. And what they're asking is they just want the staff at the nursing home to run this with nobody from the Board of Elections, no outside regulation or observance because of safety. So these are the kind of crazy things that they're recommending. There were a lot more. I don't remember them all right now, but it won't happen unless the legislature approves it. So once again, this is how important it is to have the legislature there and have people there who really want law and order and who really want to respect the integrity of our elections in order to keep things like this from getting passed. So yeah. Any questions?
Everybody's unmuted if anybody has any specific questions for Amy. I know my blood was boiling when Cammie was giving that update. I was like, oh, these are things I had not heard of, and that's really scary stuff.
I just want to say thank you. I mean, great job. Great job. Thank you so much on educating me, because I think there's a lot of education that has to be done outside of just you and I.
Yeah, and that's the important thing, is getting this information out to your other friends who aren't already a part of this organization or these clubs and aren't hearing this. And I think a lot of us, we go on Facebook because we're old and we see all this we're seeing all this information shared amongst ourselves. But the real goal of that is to then share it out in your community, let other people know what you're learning and share information about candidates, share candidates posts, and ask your friends to, hey, help me make calls for this candidate, or if we ever get to do it, hey, come walk with me today and let's go knock on doors for this candidate. Again, if we get back to that, which I do hope. But in the meantime, use social media. If candidates send you information, forward it on to friends who you think would be open to hearing it, and could be that we could kind of teach them the way we're learning all the time.
Well, we all wish we had your background, by the way.
Oh yeah, and now I'm a project manager. So I worked in the film industry. I didn't finish that. I worked in the film industry, then I worked in logistics, and now I work in project management in digital analytics. So I do really understand what, I think it was Judge Wood that was talking about how they know so much about us. It's true. But we can use that information. Companies are using it every day to market to us, and candidates can use it as well. So it is a really important thing that we need to capture and use, because I know that the Democrats are using it. So that's another thing we're working on getting moving forward with on my campaign as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Amy.
Sarah.
I love having people at my house, and I think you're probably the last person I had at my house before everything got shut down. So
That's right. That was
we'll
wonderful.
have a party as soon as people can start coming back over.
Sarah threw us a Mardi Gras themed fundraiser, and the food was amazing, and the decorations were just on point. It was great. We had a really good time. So thank you, Sarah.
Maybe if we ever get to do things again, we'll have like a, oh my gosh, the world's open again party. So
Yes.
I feel like I'm just gonna do it anyway. I don't care what Governor Cooper says. But thank you, Amy. Kaylee, are you still here?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. It's been great to be here and be among all these female candidates. I'm so excited that we have such great candidates in Mecklenburg, and I hope we can all help each other out in some way, once things get normal again, and maybe host an event that we're all at. I think that'd be a great publicity for the party and for ourselves. A little bit about me. So I'm born and raised in Charlotte, although I did go away in the 11th grade and went to boarding school. And that experience really changed my life. So I went to public school up until that time, and I grew up in a world of surrounded by moms and housewives. So I'm 16 and I went to boarding school, and I was sitting in the dorm with all the other girls, and an administrator came and gave a little talk about something really simple and procedural. Okay, but she just talked and talked, and she was so articulate, and it really floored me. I'd never heard a woman speak at length with such articulation. I couldn't believe that something so simple blew my mind, but that I hadn't been exposed to women as leaders back in Charlotte. So when it comes down to school choice, that's really personal for me, because being able to go to boarding school really changed the entire trajectory of my adulthood. So to know that Governor Cooper and the teachers unions want to squash charter schools, and they want to eliminate the vouchers that would permit low-income families to afford private education, that's an issue that's near and dear to my heart. And I'm not even sure that people within Mecklenburg who would usually vote Democrat, if they know what they're getting, that they're getting a lack of choice when they vote for that Democrat. So school choice is a huge thing I want to be able to promote when I'm able to reach my voters. I personally have really ambitious goals regarding calling. Chris Polton right now is helping to get my calling data set up in Red Dialer, and I'm going to just make calls to voters. That's going to be my way, because I want to personally connect with people. If I can't knock on doors, I'm just going to be calling. Later this summer, I hope that I can host some calling parties in my home, bi-monthly or even on a weekly basis. Just have everybody here, because we've got to do this communication level to new people. I know that we're all preaching to the choir pretty frequently. I've been on a bunch of these Zoom meetings, and I love it. And it's so great to see you all. I really feel like we've had a nice social time together, gathered a lot of information, asked a ton of questions, but how do we reach that next layer out? And in Mecklenburg, we have a huge task ahead of us it's not a conversion, this isn't religion, but just to touch people, to reach people, to give them our message. We are women, we are Republicans, and we're the party of liberty. If you haven't noticed, the only people talking about reopening the state right now are the Republican leaders. And unfortunately, Dan Forest isn't governor yet. So we're all beholden to Cooper and the CDC. We're being run by this small group of health bureaucrats. I'm extremely fired up, and I've been very upset by that. So one of the things I'm trying to do is to support the people that are trying to reopen the county and the state just on social media. That's kind of all we have at this time, sadly. So I do expect that things will change. It'll open back up within a month or two, and we'll get back on the trail. But definitely has been a bit of a blip. And I have a lot ahead of me as far as the fundraising, and just making those calls is something that takes time. So my district is very diverse, District 100. There are a lot of Hispanics, a lot of African Americans, and it's a really commercial area as well. You have Independence Boulevard, Albemarle, as well as Central Avenue. So there's so many small businesses, mom and pops, established by immigrants from Central, South America, Mexico. What's going to happen to them with this extended shutdown? What can I do? What can we do as candidates and as leaders to assist in this process? There's going to be a lot of mopping up of a lot of economic pain. And with economic pain comes social pain, poverty, domestic violence, suicide, mental illness. The school choice thing is almost to the side because people aren't even in school. I mean, we've just been handed such a situation here, but there's really a lot of opportunity. There's a silver lining here. There's a lot of opportunity for us to communicate our message during this time. Like, hey, we're in favor of you continuing to operate your business with safety protocols in place. You have a salon, you have a small restaurant, you should be allowed to run that. So I don't know, guys, we just have to do what we can to get this message across, because we have really hit rock bottom dealing with the left, and I'm sick of it. So I think that's pretty much what drove me to run. I'm a mom, I'm an educator for childbirth education, and I got involved in politics about 3 years ago, starting to go to some of the club meetings and meeting all these phenomenal women, just great friends I've made within the party, and just thinking, I can't let my opponent run unopposed. He ran unopposed in 2016. In 2018, I'd really like to reach out to the woman who ran against him. She didn't win, but I'd love to know, what she tried, what she did, get a little bit about her. And then prior to that, the Democrat also ran unopposed. We can't let that go on in our county. So at the very least, we have to try. We have to fight the fight, because we really do have a different point of view than the left. Only we don't have the media channels like they do. So it's really up to us as individuals to talk to our friends and to make these calls. So yeah, I'll be making lots of calls. I will
Kaylee, you nailed it.
Like,
Kaylee,
you cannot believe
nailed
that's
it.
my strategy.
Sorry, Kaylee, you nailed it. I mean, you nailed it. And I love you, girl, but you nailed it. I mean, that's exactly what we need to focus on. And I'm so proud to have you on this, and you're going to win this hell or high water. We're going to make you as an individual win this.
Try to win. We have to reach voters. We have to reach thousands and thousands of people who don't know who we are yet. So there's a way to get out there. To me, I'm all about the earned media. I just want to get me on the airwaves.
Yeah.
I can chatter.
Yeah.
I can chatter.
All right. Any other questions for Kaylee? I really think we need to kind of own this leading on opportunity, and Republican values really are going to lift people out of that cycle. And so I'm just, the wheels are turning right now with Uptown Women, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think we could do some really, really cool stuff with that. So
that's awesome.
We're going to do amazing stuff with that. And that's what's going to matter here. Kaylee, it's about the individual. It's not about, as I was speaking to my mom about Tom Tillis, he's a Democrat, or he's a Republican. My mom's a Democrat. She actually was listening to Tom Tillis and listening to him. And she's like, wow, I really like that guy. And I'm thinking, why wouldn't you?
Well,
right?
I mean, I agree with you on a certain level that we do need to know the candidates, individuals, but I think that you do vote party line nowadays, and the party line that you choose really says a lot about you, for starters. And we can encourage people to vote Republican no matter what, It's kind of my stance.
all right. Well, thank you, Kaylee. Good to see you. And then Sunny, are you still here? Want to kind of give a judicial update? I know you've been kind of tearing it up with some cool things that you've been trying to do during all this.
Yes, thank you so much, Sarah. I want to briefly introduce myself to those who are listening, because I know this is being recorded. I am a refugee. My parents and I came in the early 1980s from Laos to America. Refugee who is running for judge. Catherine Truitt made a comment about social economics, although the statistics and everything say what they do. I do want to emphasize that my family came here with debt to the U.S. We came here on a promissory note that we would pay back our debt. We didn't have even $20 in our pocket. My parents raised 3 children. One who ended up serving in the military, was a Marine for 4 years. My sister has been an educator for over 16 years, and I was the first in my family to graduate college and eventually go into law school. I was born in Laos. I have been here since I was 2. I still speak fluently in my own language, but social economics, although statistics say one thing, individual perseverance says another. The other thing I do want to mention is we are all candidates for the first time who are going through COVID-19. And as I indicated, perseverance is going to show more. What I have is the benefit of an opponent who pushes me to do more. He is much younger than I am. He's very savvy. He is using social media the way I've never seen it before. I have spoken to Sonia. I'm going to give her the most credit for this week in terms of social media. I saw her video. It was fantastic. It speaks to the younger voters. In fact, Sonia, I am going to mimic something like that. I think it reaches people, especially during COVID-19. I have posted on social media practically every single day on both either my personal account or my campaign account since we have been under lockdown. What I have done while we've been at home, I knew that there was one person, a district attorney, who has done really good in the community, and her social media was up. She was advertised in the newspaper. I teamed up with her, and she's giving food to local children. During Easter, we donated to her children 32 baskets. I didn't ask her to do this, but I was pleasantly surprised and pleased that she advertised my efforts. That means on that one post, I had over 1,000 people recognize what I did off of her social media that she did for me. We have engaged in the nursing homes. We started out very small. I thought it was going to be a 1-week project. I thought we would be lucky if we collected 100 cards to give to the nursing home. We have collected over 440 cards. We went from 1 nursing home to 4 nursing homes. We advertised it. We teamed up with the Moroccan community. The Moroccan community has 5,000 people who like their Facebook page, a large majority who vote in Charlotte, and I think a lot of them are very conservative. I made the flyers, the person who I teamed up, put it on his Moroccan page, on his personal page. Every single time that I do something for the nursing homes, I know that it's reaching over 5,000 people. I have then since gone to helping out the tent communities through another contact that I have. We have given for 2 weekends now, and we have gotten to the point where Fox 46 came out and actually interviewed me, and I was on the night news channel 10. I can send a link to that. The next project that we are doing right now, we are doing food pantries through the tent communities. 2 church members were out there and they are in desperate need of food. One pantry used to only give on one Tuesday, twice a month. The need is so great that he's giving every Tuesday now. And we are teaming up with the 2 churches to see what we can do for them. In addition, when we were dropping off the cards to the nursing homes, now we have nursing homes contacting us to see what we can do. They would like for us to donate masks. And it doesn't have to be the ones that the nurses and stuff use, but the residents themselves do not have access to masks. And they have asked us if there's anything that we can do to help out. I have already contacted my family members who I know sew. Just my team alone, and I'm teaming up with the Moroccan community on this one as well. My team alone in 24 hours have made by hand 50 masks. Our goal is to donate 500 masks to the nursing homes. In terms of what we can do, I think that things can't be shared off of our social media if we aren't posting things that are shareable. I listened to the same educational Zoom that Sonia was on, and I absolutely agree with what the presenter was saying in terms of changing our profile photo. There is a way on Facebook that you can brand yourself. I noticed that Sonia has branded her background. My husband has branded mine. That's a very simple way. If you have, let's say, 100 people, even if they do not live in Charlotte, that changes their profile photo, that has your logo on it, around it. You know how we've seen the stay-at-home ones?
Mhm.
You can create your own that says, vote Sunny in 2020, or vote Amy Bynum. That is going to stay on their profile. That, no matter if they don't go to your page, they will see. Anyone on their link will see. It is something that I'm going to encourage each and every single one of you to do, because you guys are my family and I want to see everybody win. If you need help with that, I'm looking into that right now. I'm more than happy to help out. I have reached out to several of you. My invitation remains open. I need help with the nursing home making masks. I need help with the pantries and the food. I will make a flyer. When Sonia reached out to us, Leanne and myself, and donated to the tent community, I made sure to publicly announce my appreciation for her, because it's important, because she's running for office and the public needs to know the good things that she's doing, because Jeff, her opponent, absolutely is doing that. Okay?
Sunny, can I ask you a quick question? You're talking about making masks. Are scarves relative to masks? Because people are using scarves as relativity to a mask, and they can't be.
And you know what? But what I'm saying to that is this: for the nursing homes, they specifically asked for masks, and so I'm trying to get them what they need and what they asked for. So we're not going to do scarves for that project, but I don't know the answer to that. We're going to do masks for them because that's what they requested.
Okay, great. I just wanted to understand the difference. I'm trying to understand the difference between masks and scarves. I mean, scarves can't do anything, I don't think. And people are wearing them outside as a comparable mask, but I don't know what a bandini or whatever will do. So
Yes, yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but we are collecting masks for the nursing home. The other thing that I have been doing while I've been home is I've been going on interviews, just like Zoom, but whoever has the platform. Will Johnson invited me to his platform. It had over 50,000 views. I got a no donation off of that without asking for a donation, all the way from Hawaii, based upon the message that we received. This is a very tough time to ask for money, but you would be surprised how many people is willing to give you money based upon what they see in terms of what you are doing. You just put the link up there, you don't ask for it, and they'll donate based upon the message that you're giving or the help that they see that you're giving to the community. Okay. I am having my first Zoom meet and greet. It's just like what Sarah's doing here for us, except instead of going to Sarah's house, a friend of mine is hosting it at the end of May, and everybody that she's invited 200 people. None of those individuals I've never met. And it's all about a meet and greet, just like we would do if things were opened up. I don't, so that is something that I will be doing. It's already set up, and it's something that I encourage all the candidates to do. Everything that you wanted to do prior to this, there's another way to do it in terms of staying home and doing it. And so I want to encourage everyone, because I'm listening, I'm probably one of the last speakers, and I'm listening to what everyone's saying and how the changes and everything else. And our Democratic opponents, they're out there. And I just want to encourage my Republican friends to go out as well. When my husband, who's not into politics, tells me what every single Democrat politician is doing on a daily basis, I know we need to get out there.
Yeah.
And so I want to, I want to thank Leanne for doing everything that she does for us. I want to thank Sonia for the great idea. I am watching for ideas myself. I'm following all of your Facebook pages to see if there's anything that I can take from it to help myself out. If there's anything that I'm doing that you guys have questions on, you have my cell phone number, please reach out.
Awesome. Right. I know I am always blown away. I'm so happy you're our vice chair. You're vice president. I'm a marketing person, and you make me go, holy cow, you have the best ideas ever. You and Ben are awesome. So are there any questions for Sunny before we wrap up here?
No, Sonny, I just, this is Christy again, sorry. How do you go, and now how are you thinking about retargeting this market? Because you can't do, as Kaylee and I were talking about, you can't do the door to door. How are you going to win your seat?
You can't go to door, but while I've been home, let me give you an example of my advertisement. Facebook has been my #1 advertisement. I spend money on Facebook on a weekly basis, and I hone in. I'm at large, but let me tell you, I have put a flyer out in Arabic, and I targeted the Arabic community. I have put a flyer out in my own language. I speak my language, but I don't write my language. But what I do have are people who can, to target my message to Laotians. I have targeted the Vietnamese community. I have targeted the unaffiliated with some of my posts that I knew would go well. All of your posts and all of your advertisement needs to be specific in your targeting. And so for me, COVID-19 has helped me reach more people than I would have if we were out in the community. Because we all know prior to COVID-19, we were all out, but we were only out to Republican events. And Mecklenburg County is deep ocean blue, as a friend of mine said. So I have been able.
I do agree with that, and I thank you for that answer. And I mean, your stuff with your posts of murals and everything you've been doing, you're out there, you're doing what you needed to do, and I really appreciate that. So thank you, and God bless.
Thank you so much. And that reminds me, on the mural that I did on my personal page for fun.
Did you do that mural?
So no, I just go out and take photos to local murals with the artists. This is the key. The artists and Camp North End like my mural every single week. So whoever's following them sees their comments. I do a amplification on a restaurant that my husband and I take out on a weekly basis, and I tag them. They have the other companies, whoever that we've taken takeout to, like our page, which means that their viewers can potentially see what we're doing. Everything that you do needs to be tagged and help you out when it comes to build your audience who can see your stuff. And it doesn't stop on just asking your friends to like your page. Every birthday, every anniversary, every Mother's Day, when I post things, I always attach a little happy birthday with my sun symbol at the bottom. Everything that I'm doing right now is branded.
Right.
So I see you guys happy birthday post and everything, but brand it, not all political, because I know some people in our personal page don't want things political. But if you just have a sun symbol and a happy birthday, but your symbol has been carrying you, people are going to know without you having to be political on someone's personal page.
Awesome. Well, I know we are, we're usually under time with this, and I know it went so long tonight. It's been awesome. Being able to get.
Sorry, it's Christy. Sorry, guys.
Well, no, but the one nice thing is, I mean, there are positives to this. I mean, where else can you manage to get all the women that are running on the ballot in one spot? That kind of stuff doesn't usually happen.
And answer questions that matters to us as newbies, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think we got some really awesome takeaways of some stuff that I would like to follow up with, and I think for the club and some things that we can do. Fingers crossed, things open back up. June 10th was supposed to be our next meeting. we were supposed to meet in April at Optimist Hall. It's a good spot for kind of social distancing because it is kind of an indoor food truck and you get what you want and then you come back outside. So fingers crossed that that works and we can have a big party to everybody, you know, get back together and just be around people. So hopefully that's the case. And just wanted to thank you all for being part of this. And I did record this, so hopefully you can get this message out and figure out how we're gonna help you guys out and keep going with this campaign season. So we got some awesome women on the ballot. But I wanted to thank everybody for participating in this tonight.
Thank you, Sarah. Great meeting.
Sarah.
Thank you guys so much, Sarah. And again, we got to get more women out there. There's not a lot of women on this.
Yep.
So we need to get a lot more women out there.
Well, we chartered new courses doing this tonight, so hopefully we can amplify this message and
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you guys. This was amazing. Thank you guys so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye,
I'll
everybody.
text you, Sunny, in a few minutes so we can figure out how to work together.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Night.